Hello and welcome to this introduction webinar about the WorldCast Manager. My name is Matthew Yurley and I'm the Director of Sales and Product Strategy for WorldCast Connect, the editor of the WorldCast Manager. In this session today, we'll give you a quick introduction about our company, who we are and what we do. We'll go through a quick product overview, then we'll spend some more time on the key features of the WorldCast Manager product itself. We'll talk a little bit about architecture and illustrate some of the new concepts we're bringing into the market. Lastly, we'll talk about the benefits of the solution for you potential customers around the world. Lastly, we'll close the session with a question and answer session and a wrap up. Getting started with the corporate introduction. So to go very briefly on the key concepts, quick facts about who we are effectively. So WorldCast Connect is headquartered in Bordeaux, France, though we also operate out of our subsidiary in Miami, Florida for the Americas. We have a global presence in more than 80 countries, different staff members around the world, and of course, a large distributor network operating around the world. WorldCast Connect is part of the WorldCast Group, which was founded more than 50 years ago and has about 17 million euro annual revenue on average. We've been developing network monitoring software since the early 2000s, so it's fair to say that we are experts in network monitoring for broadcast, media, and telco sectors. In fact, these are three typical markets that we're addressing today with the WorldCast Manager. Again, namely the TV and radio sector, mobile environment, stadiums and venues, the satellite and cable sector, of course, and lastly, as I mentioned earlier, the telecommunication sector. Getting started with the product overview. So the WorldCast Manager is, before anything else, a network monitoring platform that also integrates some operation support modules, making it a true NMS and OSS platform. It is based on a very modular design and architecture, relying on a set of back office processes that you can see at the bottom of the screen right now, that are including some discovery engines, unified database, open APIs, of course, drivers, and edge bots that we'll talk about in a few moments. These back office processes are serving front-end user modules, all accessible through our central web portal. And these modules enable different users within the organization to monitor, manage, and control a large set of devices, large ecosystems of products and equipment. These modules, again, if we take a look at some example of what are contained in this web client, are covering, dashboards, including live readings, dynamic maps and alarms, of course. On the management side, we have a pretty in-depth historical timeline that shows all of the events across the entirety of the sites and devices, a pretty advanced end-to-end ticketing management module, the ability to assign users and to task and to track resolution paths, and of course, the ability to build altogether a very deep knowledge base of issues, incidents, and how they are resolved. Lastly, on the last side, the control side, we provide advanced analytics, control capabilities over devices using standard protocols. And of course, everything that we're doing is fully web-based, as you will discover. The licensing with our platform is actually very straightforward and simple. It's only based on the number of devices that we're monitoring. We don't really care so much how many sites you're operating, how many users will be concurrently connected to the platform. We'll scale the back office processes to match your needs. Now, what really is key for us is to understand how many devices you're trying to monitor. And we start at the 25 tier for 25 devices, going up to 2,500 for the larger deployments, even going on to the enterprise edition for even larger deployments. Let's take a look at some key features of the product now. First of all, as I've mentioned briefly in my introduction, the WorldCast Manager comes with a unified and centralized web interface. It actually relies on a very standard client-server architecture, and the client is fully web-based, developed using HTML5 and responsive, which makes it quite modern, and that will adapt really nicely to any screen resolution and any platform that you want to use for accessing the WorldCast Manager. It, of course, comes with an advanced user rights management module that will allow you to very finely define what each user is able to see in terms of sites and devices, and also which module that given user will be able to access. It's also very important to note that on top of having a fully web-based interface for the end users, the administrators are also fully web-based using the same platform. So as you log in onto the web portal using your administrator credentials, you will access fully graphical interfaces for configuring the platform, and you will discover how simple that is in the next few slides. What's really important to know also about this platform is the fact that it is vendor agnostic. It works and will connect and communicate with any equipment from any vendor. We're using standard industry protocols such as SNMP, XML, SOAP APIs, and so on to integrate the very wide variety of products in the broadcast media and telco industries in general. You have some key names illustrated on that slide, ranging from your standard IP devices and IT gear from Cisco and HP and many others, going to the radio, audio, and video manufacturers, including some of the leading manufacturers today in the industry. The platform actually leverages what we call drivers, which are little software interpreters, if I may say so, enabling us to translate what data and alarms are available on the devices into something that our platform will understand. So these drivers are included by default with every deployment that we propose. You get the entirety of the driver list as we deploy the platform. There is no extra or hidden cost in the driver. Should you not find the driver you're looking for, you have effectively two options. First of all, you can decide to create your own driver yourself. And in fact, the tool that we use in the labs to create drivers is actually exposed and available to you as customers directly within the web client. So you can be completely autonomous and create or update your drivers at will without any help from us, because it's very straightforward to do. Second alternative, of course, if you don't fancy doing that yourself, you can send us some documentation. And in fact, as part of the support contract that you have with us for the maintenance and the software upgrades, that includes also the driver creation service without extra cost. So again, it's a breakthrough in the industry. We're providing drivers free of charge as part of the support contract to you. If you need them now, or if you purchase brand new gear in 3, 5, 10 years from now, we'll keep building drivers for you. The platform is actually very simple to deploy. Right now, we're looking at a typical admin screen, and you see it's still very graphical. And I'm saying admin, but at the end of the day, the platform comes with what we call an autopilot configuration engine. And that engine will do about 90 to 95% of the initial configuration of the platform on its own, without extra help from you IT guys or your experts, broadcast experts in-house. The way this actually illustrates quite well is the automated scanning and network discovery function that is built into this configuration engine that will perform global network scanning and automatically detect devices on the IP network, identifies them through our driver library, and apply the best settings for the monitoring and the alarming and the control that we have through the drivers. So all this is fully automated. As soon as you start the platform, the system will start scanning the network on different IP ranges that you can define through DNS servers, and again, start the monitoring as soon as devices are detected. Now, switching to the standard user modules, the first interface that your users will be seeing most likely will be the dashboard. And the dashboard actually comes in multiple layers, starting from usually a high-level representation, typically a geographical map that you can see on the left side, for example, with every site represented on the map with a different dot and different color codes to illustrate what's going on at the high level within that site. But also the ability to actually dive into the next level of zoom and the ability for the system to provide contextual drawings and representation of your site. So these drawings are usually provided by your customer as visual file, SVG, CAD drawings that you can import and that we can use as a background that we can potentially animate as well to represent what's going on within each site individually. And you can see on this one, you can have different flows in a typical architecture diagram, or that can also be in a more straightforward way, pictures of your environment, rack server diagrams, pretty much anything that you think will be helpful for your team to get to the point quickly. If you keep diving even further from these diagrams or representation, you will actually be presented with different pages for every equipment. And these pages will include a lot of data and information about the devices that you're interested in exploring. In these two screens, for example, these are two tabs of a given page for a device. The first one on the left presenting what we call the timeline, that will represent a graphical block showing every event on any time scale that you're interested in seeing, with additional details whenever you come across an incident or something worthy of attention. On the right side, you have the details of the curves, all the levels, all the data points that we collect represented across time as well, that you can mine, that you can explore at will. The system also comes with advanced notification capabilities. Because we capture so much data, we can define alarms or use the alarms already available in the device interfaces. But at the end of the day, we want to provide you with insight, provide you with alerts whenever something worthy of your attention actually occurs. In these two examples, we're presenting typical email notification that can be received with a table, of course, fully customizable with the data that you're interested in seeing in these emails, or a very simple text notification, again, with a link that will take you directly to the web interface to find out more about that event or issue. Enabling mobility is very key to us, and we understand that, of course, usually such NMS platform are operated from a central network monitoring center, but also largely used by engineers in the field to go and troubleshoot issues, to look at devices in remote sites and so on. So it was critical for us to develop an application that will scale to any device, any screen resolution that you have. So we didn't build dedicated iOS or Android apps. We made the web portal so that you could access it from any tablet, smartphone that you already own. The experience will be scaled to the screen resolution available, but the entire feature set will be available, of course, presented maybe in a slightly different way than the standard desktop web portal. But still, you will get access to the entire list of devices and sites that you are able to see as the given user that we're considering, also accessing all the alarms, the events, and lastly, all the assignments, personal assignment that I can receive directly on my mobile phone while on the field. That ties in really nicely to the next topic, which is obviously the ticketing and operation management portion of this very end-to-end large platform. This module actually comes as an extension to the traditional scope of network monitoring systems in general. In fact, if you look at all of the other vendors in the industry, they usually will do some monitoring, some alerting, and the scope will end there. So you don't really know what's going on after, if the team is able to resolve issues and the time it takes to get there. So that's why we decided to actually build a fully end-to-end operation support module part of this platform, so that on top of collecting data, exposing data, and sending alarms, we can track what's going on after. We can assign people, you can track tickets, you can see the chain of events, like on the timeline on the right side of the screen. You can also get recommendation. Actually, the systems come with a correlation engine that will showcase past tickets, past events that we've seen, and hold our result back then based on what we're looking at right now. So it's pretty intelligent in the way it addresses operation support, and also provides a lot of insight to save you time on the operation side. Because we get so much data about all these devices and the entire ecosystem, including all the sites monitored, we also wanted to provide very visual analytics. The purpose of doing this is actually double. The first one, and that's what I'm showing right now on screen, is doing some statistics about the ecosystem to get an understanding of the way your ecosystem is operating, detecting issues with specific devices or specific sites, and getting stats on all this. Typical use cases are including, SLA monitoring, system downtime, fault statistics. We even have customers using this to justify to their procurement team why they need to replace a given piece of equipment. They have the proper tool now to back their request and to show why this given device is worthy of a replacement, just because they had so many issues, so many incidents across whatever period of time we're considering. So this very visual tool comes with a set of filters that you can play with to customize, to create custom reports at will in that fully graphical interface. And of course, these reports are accessible through the web portal in a very visual way, but also exportable automatically as CSV or PDF file that we can also email at the frequency you decide. The other aspect of the analytics and reporting is what we call the global timeline. This timeline actually shows a representation of all the events across the ecosystem and how one relate to another. So it will be a really great tool to do global troubleshooting on the entire ecosystem, and of course to look at a given issue or given incident that you received a report from or a notification for, and also understanding how that one event was potentially affected by previous anterior events on the same device or other devices or even other sites. This will be the tool to showcase and to illustrate how one event relates to another and to give you a global understanding of what's going on across your operation. So if we do a quick summary of what we discovered so far, the WorldCast Manager is an enterprise network monitoring software that comes with operation support modules as well. It is compatible with any IP network, so whether you're operating on a very standard Ethernet-based or fiber-based ecosystem architecture, or whether you actually leverage some satellite links, some 3G, 4G mobile communications, that will be a very functioning system, whatever the case. It comes with a unified web interface, so allowing you to a new user to access all the module sets directly from their standard web interface. So it doesn't require you to install any desktop application. It works on whatever existing hardware you have, whatever laptop, tablet, phone you already operating. This will be compatible. It also, and by definition, by essence, is open to the ecosystem. It is compatible with any device from any vendor, and that's really key. It comes also with very advanced configuration engine that will do, again, by 90 to 95% of the initial setup, saving you a lot of implementation time and saving you a lot of trouble for your teams setting very large-scale system. All this is completely automated with the, for example, network discovery function that I've mentioned earlier. The dynamic dashboard is also a very key aspect of what we do. It's a very multi-layered type of approach where you can have a very high-level view, usually intended for management teams, but also the ability for the operation teams to dive into sites and devices at will to explore what's going on. It comes also and provides access to all the alarms and notifications that you would expect from such a device. And of course, as I've mentioned, with the ticket management, the full tracking of the operational response once you get notifications or alerts sent to you. Part of this ticket management and notification, of course, includes the reading and the full history of the devices and the events that we're tracking. So all this is fully available in the client. And lastly, we are also leveraging that data to provide you analytics and reporting capabilities through the modules that I've introduced to you earlier. Let's move on to a few slides about the architecture of the platform. The very standard way to deploy this platform is usually leveraging a very centralized type of approach. And that's in fact what most of the players in the industry have been doing for years, including ourselves. It's still a very valid model in a centralized approach. Usually at the network operations center, you will operate the platform that reaches out to the different devices on the network directly by doing polling potentially, or just sitting still and waiting to receive traps or notifications from the devices. Now we've actually implemented a new type of architecture in our platform, and that's actually what we've showcased at a couple of different trade shows this year. This new architecture we call Grid. It actually leverages a new concept that we came up with, calling that concept edge bots. And these edge bots are effectively small software agents that we can deploy at different points in the network, usually in remote sites, to perform a portion of the central core intelligence at the remote site in a very local way. This Grid type of deployment is very well suited for large-scale deployment if you are operating from rugged regions where you don't necessarily have always a permanent connection. You can deploy this edge bot, which will concentrate the intelligence of the WorldCast Manager locally and process the data, transmit and synchronize that data to the central site, but keep that core monitoring and control capability locally as well, even if you're completely disconnected from the central network operations center. So edge bots, again, to summarize on this concept, are very lightweight software agents providing local monitoring and management capabilities. They can be installed on any existing hardware. Obviously, there is a little bit of processing power and memory required to operate this, but this is, again, very lightweight, so it integrates really nicely in your existing ecosystem without requiring additional hardware from us or from a third-party vendor. In fact, we even have some customers who are running the edgebots directly on Raspberry Pis, for example. These edgebots are designed to enable local data capture and processing. They are securing the data transfer with the WorldCast Manager using SSL encryption, so it's very secure in terms of data transfer. It's also optimizing the communication by sharing the data intelligently with the central server. In fact, you can define a set frequency at which the edgebot will initiate a communication to synchronize the data, unless, of course, something happens and they have the ability to reach out directly and to share the data at that given time. Overall, enhance the resiliency of the WorldCast Manager by providing local monitoring and control capabilities at every site and enrich the way we can deploy such system. Now let's talk a little bit about the infrastructure required to support such application. Of course, usually when we consider large-scale enterprise system, that is a very touchy subject, and we wanted this platform to be very easy to deploy, and I think I've illustrated in my previous slides some of the key concepts we're bringing forward in that space, but it was also very important to make it as open as possible and friendly with existing IT infrastructure. So to cater for that, we can, of course, deploy our solution on physical hosts. That's very standard. We can do also virtual deployments, and we, in fact, use a lot of virtualization technology in-house to test our platform as well. We can do cloud-based deployments. We've got a number of customers already running our platform on cloud providers, OVH in Europe, Amazon Web Services, and Microsoft Azure, to name a few of some of the providers that we work with on a regular basis. We can do on-premises, of course, and that's linked to usually the physical host approach or the virtual one, but it can also be a very hybrid model, combining the best of all these worlds to provide a solution that will fit your environment, that will fit your architecture. So keep in mind that this platform is also very adaptable, very open, and whether you want to work in a specific way, we should be able to accommodate that from the get-go. Let's talk a little bit about the benefits of this platform. At the end of the day, what we wanted to provide with such a platform was the ability for us to help you prevent incidents. We've got a couple of modules that will send you alerts, that will help you identify patterns across the entire ecosystem so that you can anticipate proactively and you can prevent incidents or large incidents before they occur. The notification will send you, minor events to let you know that something is going on so that you can proactively work on that before it turns into a critical event or critical outage. Linked to this point, of course, is the ability to maximize the equipment of time. We understand, operating a broadcast environment, whether you're on the TV, on the radio side, even if you're on the telco side, usually requires operating very expensive and complex equipment that you cannot afford to lose for whatever reason, that you cannot afford to have down. So having a platform that will help you maintain properly these devices, that will let you know when something happens so that you can proactively work on that, on the maintenance and so on, is absolutely key in any operation. So at the end of the day, with this platform, we want to help you maximize what the performances that you get from the different devices that you operate. We also aim at saving you time on the operational side, and that's actually one of the key drivers for us to implement the ticketing management system, which again will automatically correlate ticket with existing ones so that we can provide faster resolution paths based on what was previously done by the team or by previous team members. So at the end of the day, again, we want to save you time. At the end of the day, we also do want to protect your business by doing all of what I mentioned so far, by preventing incident, by maximizing uptime, by saving time, we're protecting your core business. Our goal really is to achieve, to give you some peace of mind when operating broadcast and telco network and environment. I think we're kind of getting at the end of this session now, so I'll turn back to you and allow you to ask some questions. If you do have any questions, I'll try to answer that right now on the spot. But if we don't get through the entire list of your questions, I really do invite you to get in touch. There is a website named right now on screen. You also have my direct contact email, so feel free to get in touch with us, and we're happy to answer your questions. So I can see already some questions popping up. So the first one being, about the security. So what does the WorldCast Manager offers in terms of security? And that's, of course, a very valid question and a growing concern across the industry. We've seen too many clients being affected by all sort of security threats through their devices, through their operations. So it was very critical for us to develop a very secure platform, especially so because we are in touch and communicating with so many devices in your ecosystem. We wanted this platform to be as robust as it can be. So to answer this question, there are a couple of different things that we put in action. First of all, we're implementing a lot of industry standard protocol that are including security protocols such as the HTTPS using SSL encryption, for example. That's what we use for the edge bots to WorldCast Manager communication. That's what we can use also for communicating with some devices so that it's over a secure link. Our database is encrypted as well, so should anyone be able to access the database, they could probably not do anything with it just purely because it's encrypted and only readable from our application. On the company side, we're also heavily investing on R&D time to secure our platform. So we're doing regular penetration tests on our code. Every time we detect something, we of course correct it immediately and make it available in all the software updates that are coming out on a quarterly basis. And actually all of our customers benefit from this quarterly update. As soon as they have a support contract with us, they can access this quarterly release and upgrade their platform free of charge again, to also apply the latest security fixes and patches as part of this. I can see actually another question about the edge bots and how that could potentially help with Red Region. Actually, in fact, that's something that I've mentioned in part of the introduction of the edge bots. One of the reasons we decided to implement this lightweight software agent was so that we could deploy a portion of the intelligence of the manager down to every local site. In fact, we do have some customers operating on a very far region, very remote sites from the central NOC, sometimes with problematic communication path of 3G mobile, sometimes satellite uplink, but of course available just for a very short moment every day. So we wanted also to be able to customize the way that site integrates within the overall monitoring and network operations center. So the edge bots are really providing such capabilities that will allow us to define different synchronization mechanism and frequencies, define the way we will completely locally manage the devices and communicate that, synchronize that with the central core. So the edge bots are really coming in place really nicely in such large-scale deployment across multiple sites, especially so if you have some connection issues and so on. I see a lot of new questions popping up, but I'm afraid we're running a little bit out of time. So again, I will invite you to share these questions, send these questions to us through my direct contact email on screen right now or directly on our website. We'll answer to this question very shortly. Otherwise, I will thank you for your time today for this webinar. I hope it was interesting, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you in the future. Thank you very much.